So hello everyone, I'd like to officially welcome you to today's webinar, eGrants Demystified, the Insider's Guide. I'm Jessica Birch from the Corporation for National and Community Service, and I'll be the host for today's webinar. Getting your questions answered is at the heart of this session. As I mentioned, we have expanded our session time so that you can get your questions answered. I will be facilitating the live Q&A at the end of the webinar, so feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A panel throughout the session. Also joining us are Amy Kanata and Jess Knight from our partners at Education Northwest, who have helped to prepare today's webinar and will be managing the WebEx technology. You'll also see them in the chat and Q&A to help address questions you may have during the session. I'm also pleased to welcome our guest speakers for today. Our first guest speaker is Sarah Forgy. Sarah joined the Corporation for National and Community Service in August of 2012. Prior to joining the corporation, Sarah directed a VISTA project in Minneapolis, Minnesota, focused on increasing employment and housing opportunities for newly arriving refugees. She is a former VISTA member and a former volunteer coordinator. Sarah is a native of Minnesota and a graduate of Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska. We also have with us today Kat Kane. Kat joined the Washington State Office in 2009 and transitioned to the Alaska State Office in 2012. Kat is a proud AmeriCorps alum. She served with the Youth Volunteer Corps National Direct AmeriCorps program and subsequently served as the director of a Seattle nonprofit where she directed a VISTA project and an AmeriCorps National Direct grant. Kat also lived in Africa for 2 years where she volunteered in Kenya, managing a center for disabled children in a rural village. So, before we get started today, let's take a moment to learn more about what your experience is with eGrants. Please answer the poll question on the right side of your screen. Have you used eGrants? And if you have, what is your level of experience with eGrants? So just take a few seconds. Have you ever used it, yes or no? Are you an expert, novice, intermediate, or intermediate? Just take a few seconds. We'll read out those responses here in a few seconds. All right, it looks like the poll has just ended and we're just calculating those results. You did join this webinar, so you do have an idea of what eGrants is, so that's a good start. All right, so the polls are in, and more than half of you have said that you have used eGrants. And your experience with eGrants, really, it's most of you are novice or intermediate, so we have very few experts here, but novice or intermediate is our level here. So it's great that you're joining us today. Hopefully you can get all your questions answered and learn more about how to work with the eGrants system. We know that interfacing with databases can be frustrating, so we have invited a few friends, like I mentioned, Sarah and Kat, to make this webinar more fun. So first, whether you are new to eGrants or you've been working with it for years, managing even the most basic elements of the system can make you feel like you're chasing your tail. Instead of chasing your tail, we would rather see you fly through the eGrants hurdles, and that's why we have this webinar here for you today. So, with the help of our insiders, by the end of the webinar, you'll be able to describe how to use eGrants, in particular, how to access the system, create and submit a VAD, or a VISTA assignment description, view, edit, and create a service opportunity listing, review applications and select candidates, search for applicants, also how to approach common challenges with the system, and to find support and more information about the system. We are excited to be debuting 3 new resources today to make your job easier. We gathered insights from supervisors and state office staff and put together concise instructions to support your recruitment efforts. We will share tips from each of these resources throughout the webinar today. Download all 3 from the Vista campus. Amy just added the URL to the chat. So let's start off by looking at how to access the eGrant system. Nobody knows how to best navigate the system than insiders. So now let's turn it over to our first insider from the Kansas, Missouri State Office, Sarah Forgy, who will talk about how to successfully access the eGrant system. Sarah, take it away.
Thanks, Jessica. So eGrants is your go-to system for member management. It is the CNCS web-based system where you manage your project from start to finish. You created your application here and will review and accept Vista applicants and do all program reporting through this system. Members manage their applications to projects and their benefits from the MyAmeriCorps portal. You see that on the right-hand side of your screen. In order to successfully support your Vistas, you and your site supervisors, if you have them, need to know your way around these 2 sites. One of the basic keys to successfully working in eGrants is making sure you have the right technical requirements. We suggest using Internet Explorer 5.0 as it works best with the eGrant system. You can check your browser version by first opening the desktop and then tapping or clicking the Internet Explorer icon on the taskbar. You see this on the right-hand side. Tap or click the Tools button, shown here on the screen, and then tap or click the About Internet Explorer section. We have a few more tech suggestions, including be sure to enable JavaScript, which allows eGrants to work. Install Adobe Reader so you can access PDFs. Turn off pop-up blockers. eGrants uses pop-up notifications. Use the Save and Next buttons instead of saving and closing a window. When you close a screen, you may have to begin the login process all over. And access eGrants on a PC. Several functions are not possible on Macs. And we know that many of you may use a Mac, and future updates to the eGrants and MyAmeriCorps.gov systems will include revisions so that these systems can be successfully accessed on Macs. The first new resource we are debuting outlines details about getting an eGrants account, including the different user roles in eGrants. Amy will drop the link into the chat panel. Making sure you have the right user role in eGrants is the key to success because different user roles come with different access capabilities. So it's important to make sure that you have the right user role for the work that you will be doing in eGrants. Here are a few helpful tips. Each individual must have their own user account in eGrants. Each user account is linked to an existing sponsor organization account. New user account creation is not immediate, and all requests for new user accounts must be approved by the sponsoring organization's grantee administrator. So be sure you know who your grantee administrator is in advance. And if you don't know who that is, you can find out by either reviewing your project application or contacting your state office. And if you have an existing user account in eGrants but need a different user role, that's when you could contact your grantee administrator. You can look up your user role in eGrants if you're not sure which role you have. So let's take a look at a few screenshots from eGrants. On the left-hand side, so to request an eGrants account, visit the eGrants login homepage. That was the link on page 12 of the presentation. First, you're going to want to click on the Don't Have an eGrants Account, Create an Account option. And then you'll see the screen on the right, and you'll want to click on Create a Grantee Account. Next, you'll want to click on This is my first time I want to create a new account in eGrants. And the window on the right will appear, and you will complete the application for an account. You will need the project sponsor organization's EIN number to complete your application. After entering your EIN, select the appropriate organization account that appears. If you are a sub-site, be sure you enter the EIN for your intermediary sponsoring organization so that your new user account is properly linked. check your email for confirmation that your request was sent to your grantee administrator. And you can find additional tips for getting an account in the new resource we mentioned earlier. To check your user role type or status, log into your eGrants account and choose the My Account button in the middle of the screen. On the second screen on the right, your user role will show up in the left-hand column under Status. If you have an existing user account in eGrants but need a different user role, contact your grantee administrator. Let's move on to talk about VISTA assignment descriptions and the eGrants system. Once you access the eGrants system, a crucial task will be submitting or editing your VISTA assignment description, or VAD. VADs are one of the most important items a VISTA has during their service year. The VAD acts as their guide to their VISTA position and provides an outline as to what their year will look like. Because of the importance of VADs, it is key that you understand not only how to create a VAD, but also how to submit it in eGrants so that your VISTA candidates and members can view it. Work closely with your state office staff when putting together a VAD, and know what your state office prefers and what they expect and look for in VADs. When writing your VAD, do the narrative work in Word or a text editing program first, such as WordPad, and cut and paste the information into eGrants. eGrants does not auto-save, and so by using a Word program, you won't risk losing any work. And recently, we have revised our process for recruitment. We now require a VAD in the portal and a site in the annual grant application before a candidate can be selected. This has been a major change, and it can slow you down greatly if you're not prepared for both, so please plan ahead. It is also important to note that VAD submission requires a workaround when using Internet Explorer 10 or above. For more information, you can see the job aid under the VISTA assignment in the VISTA campus, and Amy just provided the link for that in the chat feature. Now we are going to review a few screens related to creating and submitting VADs. To create a VAD, first open the portal home under View My AmeriCorps portal and then select the VISTA Workbasket. You see the VISTA Workbasket on your screen now. Under the VADs tab, you can view all your current VADs and select the Create New VAD option to begin a new VAD. On the second screen, you can click the Include Expired VADs option to view VADs from previous grant years. It's important to know that incoming VISTA members may only be assigned to current VADs and not expired VADs. At this point, you likely have questions, and Jessica is now going to remind us how to post questions in the Q&A.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah, for the detailed overview of how to access the eGrants system and how to work with VADs. So we've given you a lot to think about, so feel free to post your questions in the Q&A panel located in the right of your screen. As I mentioned, we are monitoring the Q&A, and we will get to your questions at the end of the session, so please make sure you document those. Now I would like to turn it over to Kat Kane from the Alaska State Office to talk about the recruitment process in eGrants. Kat?
Hi, everyone. Now that you know how to access eGrants, let's dig deeper to find out how to use eGrants for recruitment. Service opportunity listings are your #1 marketing tool when you find amazing candidates. When creating a service opportunity listing, you will be asked about 24 questions in the system. Supervisors have requested that we give them a way to preview those questions in advance so they can prepare their answers before they log in. Our second new resource includes these questions and more. To see the new resource about posting your listing in eGrants, visit vistacampus.gov or check out the chat window where Amy just posted the exact link. Let's take a look at a few of the screens in eGrants to learn more about creating or revising a service opportunity listing. I'll give the new supervisors on the call a hint that more experienced supervisors already know, and that is the very best way to attract high-quality recruits is to really sell your program in the service opportunity listing. This listing isn't simply a position description. It really is your #1 marketing tool to recruit candidates. So to recruit or to create a listing, you're going to log into eGrants, go to the portal home, and then go to the recruitment link on the left. This is the first screen you will see when you enter listing details. For the service dates, be sure to insert the start and end dates for your VISTA service year, not for your project grant cycle. Your member's start date will be the first day after pre-service orientation, also known as the PSO. Their end date will be 365 days later. And for anyone who's very detail-oriented, you may notice the posting on the screen 2 days earlier, and that's because 2016 is actually a leap year. One note on this, if you're in year 2 or 3 of your project, one way to save some time is to simply revise last year's listing that's already in the system. Or you can start fresh by creating a new service opportunity posting. But one note, if you do revise an old posting, be sure to update all of the date fields throughout the listing. Okay, on this screen I have 2 tips for you. First, I want to draw your attention to what is commonly called a 2-line teaser. This is where you write a hook to attract candidates to click and learn more about your opportunity. When candidates log into the MyAmericorps recruitment system, they get to see hundreds and hundreds of opportunities. And your hook that you write is one of the very first things they'll see. That's shown on the right. This is the candidate view on the right. And that's how you'll help differentiate your program and really help your posting stand out. The second is a reminder about dates. So you'll need to keep your listings accepting application dates open well past when you do interviews. That may seem counterintuitive that you want to accept applications and then keep it open past that date, but with this system, we need to have valid dates in your posting so a candidate can accept the offer. And we also need valid dates in the posting so the state office can approve a candidate. If your posting has already expired, candidates cannot accept and the state offices can't approve the posting. So with the dates, you might want to consider posting your service opportunity a few months in advance of the pre-service orientation, so you have lots of time to do interviews and screen all of your top candidates. If you do miss the PSO deadline, you may be unable to fill your VISTA position. You would need to work closely with your state office to make sure you can meet those deadlines. So you've now created your listing, and the listing sounds pretty awesome, but how do you make sure it goes live on the myamericorps.gov website? First, you'll want to check the start date on the revised posting and make sure the dates are current for 2015. You'll also want to ensure you've selected making the posting visible and have set the accepting application status to yes. If you miss any one of those 3 with visible or accepting applications, your posting will be hidden, so even though you think it's live, no candidates will be seeing it when they log in. Next, it's important to remember that every time you click to edit the listing, it must be approved again by the state office. So if you're just wanting to look at the listing but not necessarily edit it, it's better to click View instead of Edit. Please keep in mind that our state offices do not actually get any email notifications when a listing is waiting for our approval. So if you're eager for your posting to go live and you've already submitted it in eGrants, feel free to simply email your program officer at the state office and let them know that you are ready for them to review it. And finally, you can check out your listing on the public internet page by visiting my.americorps.gov. That's the candidate's website, and that's where you'll be able to confirm that it's live, and you can find the exact link to the posting so you can share it widely to your own network. Do remember that eGrants is one recruitment tool, and it's a really good one. We get thousands and thousands and thousands of candidates in eGrants every year, but also know that it's not your only recruitment tool. To get the word out more widely, you can consider sharing that exact link to your posting. You can share that link on your agency's newsletter or on your blog or on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all different social media programs that your agency might use. The more postings that you can get out there and people see your position, the more likely you'll find that ideal candidate. Some sites do also like websites like Craigslist and Idealist to help spread the word about your VISTA posting. So once you are in the recruitment work basket, you can click on the Service Opportunities tab and see all of the postings for your grant. That will show you the full list of positions. You can also click the Show Hidden Listing to show any that you may have hidden in the past after you already found your candidate. This image on the screen now shows you where you can find the View versus Edit a Posting function. And again, anytime you click Edit, that posting will be taken off the public internet page and will go back to your state office for approval. So as a program officer, we regularly hear from supervisors who want to identify additional applicants for their positions. If you want to expand your search, you don't have to wait for applicants to simply find your posting. Instead, you can do a search to find them and reach out directly to people who might be a good fit. You'd be able to review their applications and invite them to submit their application to your project. Our third new resource on vistacampus.gov walks you through the search process, and Amy is posting the link in the chat window now. The search feature is a great recruitment tool and includes options to search for both potential applicants as well as submitted applications. A search for potential applicants includes candidates submitted for other VISTA and AmeriCorps projects, but not necessarily applicants who've found your posting and position yet. Search results will include current applications in the system, as well as older applications from years past that have remained on file. A search in the submitted applications will include applications that were submitted specifically for one or more of your service opportunity listings within your grant. Searching and sorting applications can help you find and reach out to potential applicants in your area. It can really help you target potential candidates with the specific skill sets you're looking for. And it can help you check the status of submitted applications in your applicant pool. You can narrow your search results by choosing multiple search criteria, such as education level, language skills, and geographic area. Or to widen your search results and see more candidates, you can choose fewer search criteria, like including all candidates currently living in your state. Let's look at a few of the screens now from the search feature. To search for potential candidates and invite them to apply to your project, log into eGrants and connect to the My AmeriCorps portal by clicking Portal Home. Next, access the Search Potential Applicants screen. And then to search for applicants, click Search Potential Applicants. Then select Search Options from the fields on the screen and click the Search button. Again, detailed instructions and search field options can be found in the brand new resource called Creating a Service Opportunity Listing in My AmeriCorps. Now we'll look at how to do a search within the submitted applicants. Once again, you'll log into eGrants and connect to Portal Home. Then you'll access the Search Submitted Applicants screen. Choose from basic search options, including ID number, name, or listing title. You can also search by the applicant status, for example, if you wanted to review a list of applicants pending state office approval. Next, we'll discuss what steps are involved once an applicant is identified for recruitment and selection. So when you've found your ideal candidate, there are several actions required that need to take place in eGrants to complete your recruitment process. Let's take a look at your actions and the applicant's actions to successfully accept a position. The process begins once the applicant submits their application to your opportunity posting. You as the sponsor will then review the application and references and set up interviews with the best qualified candidates. When you found your ideal candidate and are ready to offer them the VISTA position at your agency, you will need to select them through eGrants. Once you've selected them, the applicant will need to log in to their myAmeriCorps.gov account and accept the position to finalize it. Be sure to factor in time for the candidate to accept online. This can affect them getting their applications in on time for the pre-service orientation deadline. Once the candidate accepts the position in eGrants, the state office will review your selection, approve the candidate, and enroll them in the PSO. Remember, the final approval of applicants lies within the state office. We rarely deny a candidate that you really like, but we will be sure to mention any potential red flags if we see something concerning in their application. At this stage, you've now selected your candidate, they've accepted your offer, and we've approved them for service. The final requirement before the PSO deadline is for the candidate to log back in and complete their travel request profile in the MyAmericorps portal. This profile indicates their proposal for how they will travel from home to the pre-service orientation and onto their service site. Now let's look at a few final screens in eGrants related to accepting a member for service. To accept an applicant, first go to the Recruitment Workbasket, then click on the candidate's name in the Pending Applications tab to see their application, pictured on the screen now. After you have reviewed their Criminal History tab one last time and confirmed they have positive references, you will go to the Sponsor Recommendation tab. On the Sponsor Recommendation tab, you'll click Select to select your candidate and officially offer them the VISTA role at your agency. You'll then complete a few quick questions about your selection and will submit the form to notify the candidate of the offer. At this point, if you have not already communicated your offer to the candidate, you'll probably want to call them or email to offer them the role and answer any questions they may have as they make their decision about your position. If you have already extended the offer to them and they've accepted verbally, you'll simply want to contact them and let them know that they need to log into their MyAmericorps account to officially accept the VISTA position online. And with that, you've now seen how to search for candidates, review candidates, and select your top candidate for service. I'll now turn it back over to Jessica Birch for the rest of the webinar.
Thank you, Kat, and thank you, Sarah, for all of your wonderful insider tips and advice. As I mentioned earlier, please feel free to post your questions for Kat and Sarah to the Q&A panel located in the right of your screen. We will get to your questions at the end of the session. So, we've discussed a lot on this webinar, how to access the system, how VADs work, and recruitment. But what if you're not sure what to do? And we're going to talk a little bit more about what your resources are and who do you go to for help. So, not sure what to do, and how long should you wait before calling for help? Please do not wait. Reach out for help immediately once you have an issue, because waiting can cause your timeline to be thrown off and can delay recruitment. So, where do you go for help? You have a few lifelines when you run into issues when working with eGrants. The first is your state office. State offices can help with project start dates and other program aspects. The second is the eGrants Help Desk. The eGrants Help Desk can help with login issues, lost passwords, and if the system is kicking you out. We know that eGrants is a quirky system and that there are times when you might need to get phone support. Technical issues must be resolved by the hotline or the eGrants Help Desk, but your state office can support you through the process or let you know if there is a workaround. So, as we mentioned, new resources have just been loaded onto the VISTA campus, and there's other resources and contacts for you if you need additional help. So, first is your corporation state office. If you're unsure of who your corporation state office is, you can visit nationalservice.gov/state offices to get their contact information. As I mentioned on the previous slide, the eGrants Help Desk can be reached at 1-800-942-2677 or by going to questions.nationalservice.gov. Also, the eGrants resources on the VISTA campus. This does include the new VISTA Campus resources featured today, so please be sure to visit vistacampus.gov. Also, the workarounds for issues in saving and submitting a VAD in eGrants and reporting and evaluation resources. These can all be found on the VISTA campus by following the links listed on the screen. So, we want to hear what you're thinking and what your plans are based on what you learned today. So please list one thing you plan to try to implement based on what you learned today, or if there's something that that really clicked for you today, something that was really an aha moment for you. So please list that in the chat and follow the instructions on the screen if you do not see the chat on here. So so I'll give you guys a minute or two to put that in the chat, and then we'll read out what you guys are planning on doing. All right, so we're getting some answers that are coming on in. So Taryn here is going to create a new user account. Tracy is going to search for applicants in eGrants rather than only those who have submitted. As was mentioned, that is a great resource, so we're happy you're going to try that out, Tracy. Maggie, she is about to offer a position to a new VISTA, so she's happy to know what the new steps are to tell her to take it and to accept it. That is definitely a great benefit to be able to tell those VISTA candidates exactly what they need to do in the system. So, so I'm happy that you're going to be able to use that. So Krista here says she's a newbie and she plans to create her own individual user account. Erin is also going to be looking for qualified applicants. And Angela is planning to create a more targeted recruitment message. Willette is going to set up an eGrants account and review information on how to search for applicants, so really getting that started. That's great, Willette. Anita here is going to improve her VADs, and let's see. A lot of here about searching for applicants, contacting the help desk, and Desiree is going to make sure that her listing is as interesting as possible. Definitely take that that lively service opportunity. Make sure it is lively as possible. Get those candidates interested. Also, people are going to create a more compelling two-liner and description for VADs. They plan on getting, plan on getting more familiar with eGrants and the recruitment process. Good. We hope that this is a great first step to that and those new resources as well. And Cami here is going to create a new VAD and effective recruitment posting. So these are all great things. You sound like you guys are all on the right track here. And those resources in this webinar is really just the beginning of what you guys can do in eGrants. So we're happy that we sparked that in you, and you can look at those resources a little bit more in depth after this webinar. So before we get to the Q&A, we want to know what you thought. On the right side of your screen, you will find a quick poll where you can share feedback about this webinar. Please take a moment to answer the questions. We do want to improve these webinars, and your input helps us greatly. So if you can take some time and just to do the evaluation, and then we'll get started on the Q&A. We have given you a lot to think about, as I've mentioned numerous times on this webinar, and it is finally time for your questions. So you can ask a question using the Q&A panel located in the right of your screen. I'll also now ask our operator to let us know how to ask a question by phone. Operator, are you there?
Thank you. And to ask a question over the phone, please press *1. Please unmute your phone and clearly record your name when prompted. Press *2 to withdraw your question. One moment, please, for any questions over the phone.
Thank you so much. So while we wait for questions to come in over the phone, let's take some time and answer some of the questions that came in on the chat. So Emily here asked, and Kat and Sarah, I'm going to let whoever wants to take this one. Emily here has a question. I often have trouble submitting reports through eGrants. Is there a good resource for that?
This is Kat. Emily, the VISTA page on nationalservice.gov does have templates for how to submit the progress reports and eGrants. It has all of the fields you need, as well as step-by-step instructions for submitting performance measures, creating performance measures, what kind of information we're looking for in the demographics section, and all those different details. And you can find that on nationalservice.gov and click VISTA, and it'll be in the sponsor section.
Great. Thank you, Kat. So another question here comes from Kathy. She wants to know, how can we involve a VISTA leader in the eGrants process?
This is Kat again. VISTA leaders are allowed to have eGrants logins, and they specifically have their eGrants permissions limited to recruitment functions. So the VISTA leader could help screen candidates, could help set up candidate interviews, could participate in helping with the recruitment functions and the interview process. VISTA leaders can be involved in that whole recruitment section. But their leaders, or the leaders, should be limited to simply recruitment functions. They should not be given grantee administrator or other rights within the system that are reserved for the project sponsors.
Great, thank you, Kat. We also have a question here. This one is for you, Sarah, from Natasha. She wanted to know if you could repeat where to find the grantee administrator, and also how do you change the grantee administrator, and where would they go for help on that?
Yeah, great question, Natasha. So you can find the grantee administrator either by looking at your grant application, contacting the project director if you're sponsoring an organization, or contact the state office, and they could let you know who has the grantee administrator role. The grantee administrator themselves can change and select someone else to fulfill that role. If the person who was previously the grantee administrator has left, your best bet is to call the National Service Hotline. And I don't know if we can put that number up on the screen, but I can give it to you over the phone. It's 1-800-942-2677, and they can help you assign a new grantee administrator.
Thank you, Sarah. And I'm posting, I'm going to post that in here right now into the chat where that phone number is. So, operator, do we have any questions on the phone?
We're currently showing no questions. Just as a reminder, press *1 for questions over the phone.
All right. So, as questions continue to come in via the chat and the Q&A, I'm going to answer, or we had some questions that came in at registration, so we thought we'd answer some of those as those might still be on your minds. So how do I verify that my member has completed the V81 form or future plans form? Sarah, Kat, how would they go about doing that?
This is Sarah. So if you look in your eGrants account and enter the portal, you'll be able to see a tab that says V81s. You can click on that and you can see which members have already submitted their V81s. And you'll also see a tab for future plans forms, and you'll be able to look there and see which of your members have future plans forms pending.
Great, thank you, Sarah. So we had a question come in, and I'm not sure if it is still, I'm not sure if it's been answered, so please, if it has not, please let us know. But someone did ask here, as a site supervisor, am I able to have an eGrants account? I'm not sure if they're a sub-site, but is it typical for all sites to have it, or all supervisors, or only specific, or is there a case in which someone shouldn't have an eGrants account as a supervisor?
That question is very specific to each individual sponsor. Some sponsors have all of their partner sites sign up with eGrants accounts to log in. Other sponsors choose to do the first level of screening on their own, and they send out applications for recruitment via email. So site supervisors would need to just check in with their project sponsor to find out what their sponsor prefers.
Great, thanks, Kat. And I hope that did answer your question. If you have any further questions, please put that in the Q&A panel. So we did get a question here from Linda. She said, you mentioned a few flaws in the eGrants system, such as timing out even if you are actively typing. Are there plans to improve the website? So Linda, I can tell you that yes, there are plans, active plans to improve the website. We are currently working on that modernization of the website so that it not only doesn't do those types of timing out issues, but also, as Sarah mentioned earlier, can work with Mac computers and the different versions of Internet Explorer and such. So we do definitely understand that it's frustrating, but we do have plans to upgrade that. So yes, so look forward to that here in the future. So let's see. So let's see, what other questions do we have here? Let me check with the phones real quick. Operator, do we have any questions over the phone?
I think you're showing no questions.
All right. So we have a question here in the chat from Sam Johnson. He said, are VISTA leaders able to post the position descriptions?
And the answer is yes, most definitely.
Great. That was a quick and easy answer. So Miguel here entered, should my VISTA's direct supervisors be part of any of the responsibilities for our program managers, for us program managers? So do they share those same roles, or how, or should they even share those same roles as the program managers?
Well, this goes back to Kat's earlier answer. It kind of depends on how you want to run your project. So if you want your VISTA members, direct supervisors, to be a part of recruitment, to screen applicants, to actually select the applicant, that's up to you and how you want to run your project. And I would recommend maybe checking with your state office, because they might have some good ideas or suggestions on what would make the best sense for your project.
Thank you, Sarah. We also had another question that came in through the chat here that said, should direct supervisors be part of these webinars? So that's a great question. So with our, as we mentioned during the evaluation, we're always striving to improve these webinars and make sure that our audiences are as targeted as possible. For our starting now to our other webinars that we have, we will be having an audience or a targeted audience listed during the registration. So definitely, if your site supervisors, your direct supervisors would like to attend webinars, we really definitely encourage that. On our registration, we will have who it is targeted to, so it may be targeted to an intermediary or to subsites, but please feel free to have them join and have them register, because we would love to have them join us on these webinars. But great question. So let me go back to the operator. Operator, do you have any questions over the phone?
Thank you. No questions on the phone lines.
All right. So I know that another one came in here. So this is for Sarah or Kat. So Megan here said, for our state offices, I'm curious if we should be rejecting each applicant that applies to our position listings that we do not select. Is this the ideal even if we're inundated with applications?
Hi, Megan, that's a good question, and I would say it's up to the discretion of the person who's doing the recruitment. I usually like to see the postings stay there, or the applicants stay there for a little while instead of rejecting them immediately. It's possible that they may have applied to one position on your team and not be a great fit, but it's possible they might be a really good fit for another position on your team and you'd be able to consider them for that role. So sometimes it can be nice to have a few good applications still sitting in the system, even if you're not selecting them immediately for a position. It is, of course, always polite and respectful to let a candidate know that they have not been selected. So if you want to drop them an email, that might be a way to let them know that they were not selected for the role.
Great, thank you, Kat. So it looks like we have, we've answered most of the questions here. Actually, we do have one that came in earlier in the chat. Jennifer asks, if you change a VAD during the year, do you need to change it elsewhere in the system? Sarah, this one might be for you.
Yes, so you can edit it in eGrants. You actually would, I believe, open the VAD, open a new VAD, copy and paste from the old VAD, make the changes you want to make, and then submit it to your state office through the eGrants system, and that would update it in eGrants as well as any hard copy you might have.
And then just to add to that, once you have updated a VAD in the system, there's, when you log in and sign the member's profile, there's an option to assign a new VAD to that member. So you'd be able to then assign the new updated VAD to that VISTA on your team.
Great, thank you guys. So operator, once more, do we have any questions over the phone?
Showing no questions.
All right, so it looks like we've answered most of your questions in the chat here and in the Q&A. We did have a few go in through here, so sorry, they just keep coming in. So we have another question from Cassie here. She said, a previous grantee administrator posted our last set of service opportunities with the job title as our program name. This made it difficult to determine which applicants were applying for each position. In the new listing, which line is the title of the position?
Hi, Cassie. When you're in the creating the service opportunity listing, the project name is going to be the title of the posting. That's the title that candidates will see when they're scrolling through all of the available positions. It's that very first line for project name.
That's a great question, yeah, and that makes sense that someone would have put the name of their project there instead of the service opportunity there. So that's a great question, Cassie. So looks like we've answered your questions here. Definitely don't feel like this is your only opportunity for questions. We know that questions can come up throughout your service or throughout your life cycle as a VISTA supervisor, and we want to make sure that you have those resources. So as we mentioned, we have all the resources that we listed on this webinar. This webinar will be posted to the VISTA campus in the supervisor's webinar section, and all the resources that we've shared will also be there as well. Also, at the end of this webinar, we will also have a VISTA we have an email address listed if you do have more questions, things that were not answered. So as we move into conclude our webinar today, we do want to thank you for your participation in this webinar, and we hope that you can join us for our next webinar, which is Retaining VISTAs Throughout the Project Lifecycle, which will take place October 20th, 2015 at 2 p.m. Eastern. As I mentioned, if you have further questions or if you need more information, you can contact us at vistawebinars@cns.gov, and that is listed on your screen right now. Please check the webinars page under the Connect and Learn to sign up for future webinars, and we hope to see you again soon. So thank you for taking the time to join us on this webinar. Please ask those questions, please check out those resources, and we look forward to seeing you on a future webinar.